Hello, everyone. My name is Margot Wright. I'm the co-founder of Yenko, and our focus is on eliminating financial barriers to college success. You'll have to excuse my voice. I lost my voice. I guess I was talking too much yesterday, so I hope you can hear me. I will try to project. And so Yenko's focus is on the fact that only about half of the students who start college will graduate from college. I started doing this work several years ago when I was overseeing college access and college success at a large nonprofit organization in New York City. And what I saw was that there were some critical things that led to students dropping out of college. At the top of the list is access to financial aid, which is the bedrock of students being able to afford college. The majority of students rely on financial aid in order to succeed. And yet, universities face financial aid-related attrition because when students don't meet the requirements to maintain financial aid from year to year, they tend to drop out. And so research shows that at community colleges, about a quarter of attrition is because students no longer meet the satisfactory academic progress requirements or have used all of their financial aid and have reached the lifetime limits. And so as a result, they no longer can continue. You also see this problem at four-year colleges, typically private colleges, that use heavy tuition discounts in order to attract students. At these kinds of institutions, if you are attracting students who are academically underprepared, and then adding to that the requirement that students meet a particular GPA in order to maintain their financial aid, once students lose that scholarship, unfortunately, it makes it really difficult for them to continue. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how this impacts colleges in particular. And so here's an example of a university that enrolled about 1,900 students one year. They had a 20% retention rate, so about a little over 300 students dropped out. What is most striking for this institution is that more than half of the students who dropped out were students who had lost their academic scholarship. For that particular school, it was about a $4 million loss. Now, these are typically not institutions like Harvard, where for every student who drops out, there are 10 students who want to fill their place. For most universities in the United States, they are not particularly selective. They accept at least 75% of the students who apply. And so there's always a net loss when students drop out. And so it's affecting universities really at the tuition level, and it's affecting their ability to really run effective programs for students. So I want to talk a little bit about why this problem happens, because a lot of people are not familiar with how financial aid works. And so what most students don't know is that even though you may qualify for federal aid or state aid for economic reasons, you need to maintain certain academic requirements in order to maintain it from year to year. And so you first have this issue of students being completely unaware that their financial aid may be at risk because they don't even know that these requirements exist. The second aspect is that these requirements are fairly complicated. And so for students, I come from New York State. So in New York State, for a student to figure out what financial aid they need and what requirements they need to maintain for federal aid, they need to look at how many attempted credits they've received. For them to figure out the same equation for New York State aid, they need to look at how many payments they've received. And so it's very difficult for students to navigate. The third piece is, once a student knows that their financial aid is at risk, they need to take action. And it's typically unclear what students need to do in order to take action. And so that is what Yenko was designed to solve. We've developed analytics that simplify the process of understanding financial aid so that students can have the tools that enable them to succeed in college. Here's how it works. First, we look at the student's academic record, the financial aid record, and then the benchmarks for financial aid for every single federal, state, and institutional aid. And we take that all and we boil it into our proprietary risk scoring system. And so students are scored at a scale of A to F, where they can see exactly how much at risk they are and how much money is at risk. And then secondly, we lay out for them very clearly what the benchmarks are that they need to meet and where they are vis-a-vis those benchmarks and the risk scores for that. And so we want to make it extremely simple for students to understand what they need to do in order to maintain that aid from year to year. Secondly, we provide them with a way to plan out the goal. And so you may know that you need to get to a 2.0, or you may know that you need to get to a 2.3 or a 3.0. Now, what do you actually do about it? And so we pre-populate our software with the courses that they're currently taking, how many credits are in each course, and then students can actually select different grade combinations to figure out what combination will get me to where I need to be. And so in this case, this student looks at the option of what happens if I get all Bs? And what they see is they're able to get to a cumulative GPA of a 2.38. The third part for us is then laying out for students critical steps that enable them to get it. And so whether it's a goal plan or whether it's, in this particular case, a student who has to declare a major, if they don't declare by a certain date, they'll actually lose their financial aid. We make it really simple for students to navigate the higher ed, which, as we know, can be really complicated for students. Excuse me. And so we find our target market is really in two areas. It's community colleges that are open access, where students are spending so much time using their financial aid and taking remedial courses, or they're transferring in, and so they have a lot of courses that have used up their aid. And as a result, once they get to the end, they run out of funds. And then secondly, the broad access second and third tier institutions, as I mentioned, that are using tuition discounts to attract students. But on the flip side, if students aren't able to maintain that aid, then what they find is they can't afford to return. We also see this problem at public colleges and also for-profit universities. And so we see really almost all universities, with the exception of the highly selective colleges, as our target market. Our business model is a SaaS model, and so we charge universities per student per year. We also have an admin platform that we'll be developing for advisors, so that advisors can actually tell how this particular information by themselves by looking through our platform, and we charge an implementation fee as well. So I wanted to talk about the example that I started out with this college that lost 185 students because they lost their scholarship. So our cost to institutions is about $50 per year. So for that particular institution, if they had offered our tools to the entire freshman class, it would have cost them a little under $100,000. If only 18 students, 10% of the students who dropped out, had used our tool and as a result had been able to maintain the GPA they needed, they would have been able to get an additional revenue, $386,000, which is a 4x ROI in the first year alone. I have been doing this work, as I said, for many, many years. I am personally passionate about the issue of getting more kids to graduate from college, but I also know that there's a business here. And so my focus is not only on social impact, it's really on the business impact as well. My co-founder went to Harvard and Stanford. He is very experienced in building enterprise systems, and we brought on board advisors who support our work who have experience in higher ed, and specifically who have experience in financial aid. We will be demoing our product at 2 o'clock, and so I hope that you will all get an opportunity to join us. I would love to talk to you one-on-one to share what Yenko is doing. Thank you.